As much as I would like to, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook myself. I've tried to disconnect a little bit more from it recently, and I don't have it on my phone and the like. But as much as whether I like or dislike the company that brought it up, I think it's a really innovative idea, and I would love to see it gain adoption. But I think it's going to face a lot of challenges. That one of the amazing things about Bitcoin is that there's no central authority behind it. It's a decentralized network. But at the end of the day, Libra is centralized. I mean, there are companies that are associated with it. So the US government, and we've seen this in the banking industry for many years, is that if the US government wants to shut down these individual organizations or wants to cause fines, then they could do a lot to accomplish that. I mean, there was some talk that Facebook could be fined $1 million a day if they ended up running Libra. The government could decide to do something like that. And for a company like Facebook that's, in billions and billions of revenue a year, maybe that's not a huge amount of money, but it's still, there's a lot of barriers that they could put in place. And that's not the case with Bitcoin, because you can stop one Bitcoin exchange, or as China has done, is say all of the exchanges need to leave or shut down, but you can't stop Bitcoin itself. But it's kind of a different story with Libra, because the validators in this ecosystem are all functioning companies that are under the purview of some government around the world. And I just think Libra is going to face a lot of challenges getting around those regulatory issues.
So the chances of it actually being, how could they launch? I mean, let's say they're regulated against in some countries, but not others. What would be a realistic picture here of, could it survive still? If it's just, what would be the minimum for it to be a success, I guess? Or how would you realistically see it playing out? Knowing that the picture is going to be messy, globally, right?
The minimum, that's a good way of looking at it. I think the minimum is the US. I mean, the US has to be okay. The US government has to, and regulators need to be okay with Libra for it to have a chance of success around the world. Because I think, at the end of the day, if Facebook completely pulled out of this and wasn't really supporting it, I don't know if the other players would have the gumption to kind of continue the project. And so I think they need to make US regulators comfortable with that. And to be able to do that, I think it needs to give up some of its basic characteristics. I mean, the US government is not so happy with Bitcoin because it can't see who's behind the transactions. It can't have control over the transactions, whereas anything that goes through the US banking system or a US dollar transaction even, they have a lot more visibility into, and there's a lot more transparency and control that they have. So maybe the way that Libra is able to satisfy the US government is by providing a little bit more transparency, not really a backdoor, but a little bit more visibility to the government about what's happening on the network.